Hello there YouTube, my name is Chuggy and today I'm playing some Battlefield 3, playing some Capture the Flag on Operation Riverside and Capture the Flag on Nebedan Flats. Today guys, it is question time part 27. Yet again guys, and I know I keep saying this, but I genuinely do mean it, you have submitted some amazing questions today. I've got 31 questions to get through, hence the 2 gameplays. Today I'll be talking, or telling you my god honest answers to your great questions. I'll say it now, as I say always, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer on anything at all from gaming, politics, sport, life, who knows, all you have to do is pop it down in the comment section below and I'll get to answering it next question time. And well, I've got 31 questions as a result of comments posted last time, so let's get cracking with those. So, first question this week comes from Silva14, and they ask, which is better, the M98B or the JNG 90? Well, I think that's very much a personal preference choice to me. I personally don't prefer, or don't particularly like either of them. I much prefer the L96 and the M40A5. They're a bit faster, they do a little bit less damage, but hey ho, that's the way it goes. Really, I think they are, I don't know, unique, powerful, therefore better in different regards. You know, the M98B is an incredibly fast travelling round and it does a lot of damage. The JNG is similar actually now, really, when I come to think of it, but I think it's more a question of preference between that. I wouldn't say that one is better than the other, just statistically the game is meant to be balanced like that, they're meant to be similar. So really, I think only you could answer that question, Silva. You've got to, I guess, use them both a bit and see what works for you, and depending on what does or doesn't work, go from there. So yeah, I hope that kind of answers the question. I don't think either is personally better than one or the other, because I think a different rifle is better. But never mind, I digress. Thank you for the question. Interesting question to kick off this week. Thank you for it. The next question comes from Gaming Revolver HD. I thought it said Revolution there. And their question is, Chuggy, BTCC or Formula 1, which is better, in my opinion? Tricky question. If you're a fan of technology, it's got to be Formula 1, and of course you've got characters and stuff there, which you wouldn't find in any other racing series. But if you're a fan of proper, action-packed, wheel-to-wheel, paint-trading racing, you can't beat British touring cars. Now don't get me wrong, there's some real characters in BTCC, but, you know, Kimi Raikkonen, yes, I know what I'm doing, etc. When Michael Schumacher was retiring the first time around, where were you? I was taking a shit. You know, you don't find that in touring cars. So for different reasons, I would say that they're each pretty cool. If I had to pick one, I'd have to say Formula 1, because I'm a fan of technology, so that's a bit of a cop-out. But there you go, both awesome for different reasons, and there you go. Thank you for the great question, Gaming Revolver HD. Yeah, I think personal preference, in my opinion, Formula 1 for me. Next question comes from Michael Elving, and they ask, would I get an Xbox 720 for Battlefield 4 if it had early access for the DLC? Short answer, no. Because there is a bigger issue for me personally with Xboxes, and I've talked about this in the past, that you have to pay for the online. Now, if it were a case that Xbox Live suddenly became free, I might be a bit tempted, but to be honest, I'm a PlayStation person, so I would go for the PlayStation over the 3, or PlayStation 4 over the Xbox 720 any day of the week. And as I've said before, I'm merely reiterating, Xbox Live, paying for it, I don't think is cool. I think that if you know, once you buy your product, you shouldn't have to buy for, say, infrastructure or stuff like that. That's why I don't play MMOs, where you have to pay a subscription and everything. I've bought my product, that should be it. I digress, I'm going on a tangent, I will stop boring you with it now. Michael, thank you very much for the great question. No is the short and simple answer on that. Next question comes from the JH1015, and they ask, well, they have 3 questions in fact. First of all, what is my favourite ice cream flavour? Chocolate. I'm kind of boring like that, but chocolate's so damn tasty. Their second question is, what is my opinion on Marusha's Razzia Bianchi swap? Well, I do feel for Razzia, because, and I've got this wrong now, and it's going to be the other way around, never mind. I do feel sorry for Razzia Bianchi swap here. Mind fart blank, because it's a classic case of how Formula 1 is these days, I guess, with money being so important. I can understand Marusha's position completely in terms of, you know, they need financial backing to keep themselves in Formula 1. So I really don't mind the fact that that they've made the swap. Obviously, I feel for the driver because, you know, all their top tier, the pinnacle of motorsport, and you get dumped because you do not have the actual bank balance. Harsh, but I think Marussia, you know, they're kind of, you know, what can they do? They race or they don't race at all, I guess. And at least, you know, they were relatively clean cut. Yep, this is the reason. We're not going to, you know, try and rinse this down or you know, try and make up any excuse. That was the reason. So I feel for him, and that's unfortunately Formula 1 for you these days. Third question comes, the third part of the question is, will there be any Challenge Chuggy episodes in the near future? Short answer, yes. Once I figure out the ins and outs of live streaming console gameplay, now I've got PC sorted, you'll be seeing some Challenge Chuggy. I'll be doing it in sort of a live format. I think that'll be a bit more interesting than pre-recorded, and then that way you get to give me the challenge in real time and see what happens next. I think that'll be quite cool. So the JH 1015, thank you very much for your 3 great questions. And Vordays actually asked a similar question about Ratia being hired from Marussia and then being fired. So it was Ratia. Oh, good. See, I should have read this. I should have read this in advance. Damn. So there you go. Bad luck, Ratia. I will, you know, find and replace all confusion. I'm really on Tangentville tonight, aren't I? Never mind. So Vordays echoes that question, but also asks, what do I think about the return of Adrian Sutil? Well, I must admit, it was a bit of a surprise. I thought Bruno Senna would be a dead cert for that seat, but then he announced he was going to be driving for Aston Martin in the Endurance Series. So I don't mind that he's back. He could drive, that's for sure. He hadn't, you know, won any races or championships beforehand, but he could definitely drive the car. And given his performance at Melbourne this weekend, you can really say that Force India made a pretty good pick there. I reckon he could have won that race if his strategy allowed him to go a little deeper with the tyres. And unfortunately, it wasn't to be this time. But keep an eye on him. He's clearly got the pace, and well, he demonstrated it in Melbourne, I think, is what you can say. So yeah, I would say a good move for Force India there, and well, glad to have him back in the sport. So Vordays, thank you very much for both of your questions there. Next question comes from Incredible Afghan, and they ask, apart from Formula 1, what is my opinion on sort of the best motorsport otherwise, sort of currently? Well, this is where I guess BTCC, I can sort of suck up to it a bit. I think BTCC is the best other motorsport series going on right now. Purely because, well, I've kind of got a soft spot for touring car racing, because I've you know, watched it, played the games, etc. since I was very young. So yeah, it's a great series, very close racing, and it's really, I guess, neat to see cars you'd perhaps see out on the street every day racing at, I don't know, 130, 140 miles an hour, wheel to wheel. And of course, you know, there's accidents. Everyone does like a good accident every now and then. So yeah, BTCC for me is the best other series out there. You know, there are countless others which you know, deserve a shout: GP2, GP3, etc. But for me, touring cars. And yeah, I think I'll just end that one like that. So Incredible Afghan, thank you very much for your great question. Next question comes from RJMV4LK3, and they ask, can I go a bit more into why the difference of the processor of the PS4 is so important? But they also ask, what do I think about the Easter eggs and endgame? Well, it's awesome. You know, it shows DICE having a little bit of a lighter side. You know, you've got Sandcastles, Battlefield 2142, little flying drones, velociraptors in air superiority, all sorts of neat stuff. It shows they've got a sense of humour, and you know, it's not the first DLC to have DLCs either. You know, Aftermath had, for instance, the Battlefield 1942 sort of theme music going on in one of the buildings on Epicenter. If you sort of destroyed a wall, you'd be able to see sort of the tank and the music and everything, which is quite cool. Yeah, I think it's a really nice little touch, and it really does add to the experience, because you know, you find this stuff, you go, ha, that's quite funny, and then you kind of have a bit of respect for the more respect, I should say, for the developers. So yeah, I quite like those Easter eggs. And also, public service announcement. Yeah, if you fly out of bounds and you have the flag, you drop the flag. That's kind of a bit harsh. I was after that fella there in the truck, and there you go. And I've really gone and derped that poor little bird there, and died because I was out of bounds. All cool here. Awesome. Anyway, I digress. So let me talk about the why it's so important that the PlayStation 4 has gone to x86 architecture. Well, all previous PlayStation consoles have had power-based processors. The analogy to think of it is basically diesel to petrol in your car. As far as you're concerned, yeah, it's basically doing the same job. It's powering your car. That's all great, but it is subtly different, and the way things work are subtly different. Now, the thing with power processors is that in the recent past, they were a preferable choice. In terms of their power consumption to actual processing power, they were very good back in the 90s and early thousands, but that isn't really the case these days. x86 chips have come on a long way, and as a result, they're more, I don't know, almost economical to put into things. It won't cost you or need or require as much electricity, say, to run the actual physical processor. You can put more data through it, all this kind of stuff. The big thing though with x86 over power is that x86 is developed for a hell of a lot more than power. If you have a computer, some sort of weird glitch on a rock sends me flying. If you have a computer, it will more than likely be an x86 based processor. Games consoles, the Xboxes for instance, all modern PCs have got Intel based chips. Well, you might have AMD chips, but still, an x86 architecture. Really, without going to the proper fundamentals of the differences in instruction sets and how they're physically put together in terms of the processors and where this cache is to this cache and all this kind of stuff, that's basically all you really need to know. So basically, what it will mean for the PlayStation 4 is easy to develop for. Compared to power chips these days, more powerful or more efficient, let's say. And the big kicker, which a lot of people, I've been surprised, it's been moderately a decent reaction so far, no backwards compatibility. You'll be able to play your previous games through Gaikai, which is the sort of streaming system that they've got in there to make up for it. But the actual processor itself won't support it. The only real way to get around that is to actually put the processor in as well, which is why some of the original launch PS3s we had here in Europe, I know this for a fact, actually had the PlayStation 2 built into them, because the PS3 didn't support PS2 games natively on its own. So they actually built a whole PS2 inside the PS3. And that's how they got around that. Now they're doing it through software emulation and stuff, which works but is expensive. So anyway, I digress. If we want to go into the technical land of answers, I'll get some diagrams and Lord knows what else and go from there. RJ MV4L K3, I don't know why I said it like that. Thank you very much for your two great questions there. Next question comes from Blown Tire, and they ask, how do I make the intro and outro for all my vehicles? Damn, I'm watching the Humvee here go up this hill majestically. No, how do I make the intro and outro for all of my videos? Well, it's a combination of things, combination of programs really. So the actual construction of the intro, the outro, in terms of where things slide, what the colours are and stuff, I actually do in a program called Keynote. Basically, if you use OS X, you'll know that that's actually the presentation program. Think of it as PowerPoint. I'm not joking. It's I can export basically the PowerPoint or the animations and stuff as a like movie file, and then I just put that in Final Cut Pro 10, and then I just edit it. I do some keying, I do a few other things, and bish bash bosh, introduction. Cue up some music and some gameplay, and ta-da! That's pretty much all it is. So yeah. Presentation software. This intro and outro brought to you by Keynote, which is basically PowerPoint. Yeah, always funny. You see, this is the way I work though. I look at something and I go, I could use this for this purpose, which it isn't really intended for, but never mind. Let's have some fun. And well, it worked out quite nicely in this case. So there we go, Blown Tire. Keynote is the answer for you there, sir. And Final Cut Pro, of course. Next few questions comes from BobNob1964, and they ask, well, first of all, have I found that air superiority is a clusterfuck? Yes, is the short answer. I'm not particularly good in the jets myself, but I have found that sort of you fly in, you're going, okay, there's a guy, you shoot him, and then you get shot down. Then all of a sudden, when you get in the turning dogfights, and you've got 3 other guys on your tail, and you're just trying to chase down one guy, and it seems like you've got no support absolutely anywhere. Yeah, it does get a bit hectic, I guess, a bit quick. So yeah, I do find it quite the clusterfuck, and as I'm not all that great in jets, I don't tend to enjoy playing it as much. So yeah, I would say yes to that part. Yes. So there we go. Bob also goes on to sort of say, out of all the weapons in Battlefield, they prefer sort of the shotguns and the light machine guns, and in particular light machine guns because you've got loads of ammunition. And do I like the power of not having to reload every 5 seconds? Well, yeah, I do. The great thing with the light machine guns in Battlefield 3 is that they are characteristic, if you get my meaning. They're designed for suppression. Light machine guns aren't really designed to kill, they're designed to keep people down, so someone can flank and then kill them a bit more cleanly, effectively, whatever you want to think of it as. So the light machine guns in Battlefield 3, they allow you to do that, and I do enjoy to say sit down with my M240B and spray a corridor, pick up a few guys as they haplessly run into the bullets, etc. I do enjoy that, and I guess you could say the same of shotguns. Pump action ability, you can just put one shell in, say if there's only one guy ahead or something. There's a pretty cool characteristic thing in Battlefield, which, although you see it in other games, Battlefield is pretty damn faithful with this kind of stuff. So yes, I do like that, and I do like the fact that characteristics in the game. And finally, they asked, do I ever play close quarters anymore? Well, I do, when the server is got the maps in rotation, I guess is the short answer. It's been interesting to sort of see how the DLCs have played out over time. As you can probably imagine, new DLC, there'll always be servers out there for you to play the new DLC on. But it has surprised me how, for instance, like Endgame, Armored Kill, you only see a couple servers on, and that's tend to be run by the guys who really love the vehicles. Close quarters, you tend to see just a few servers which are run by the guys who really like close quarters. And unless you want to, or unless you join, say, a conquest match and it happens to rotate into that game mode, I've found myself not actually really playing much of the DLC. Too often, that and the crazy tickets and all this stuff, you can kind of get into that argument. But really to sort of shorten the question, or shorten the answer I should say, sorry, yes and no. nice and decisive as always. Yes, I do when it's in rotation is the short answer, and that really depends on the server, I guess. So Bob Knob, thank you for your 3 great questions, interesting questions there, I think you guys would agree. Next question comes from Arsenal 2022, and they ask, has Battlefield 3 got the best multiplayer shooter ever, or best shooter multiplayer? Yeah, I said it right the first time, ever. Well, I am not sure, is I think how I'd answer that. There are 2 games which spring to mind, Battlefield actually being one, or more to the point, Battlefield 2 Modern Combat. And yes, I'm going on about this damn game again. Battlefield 2 Modern Combat and Call of Duty 4, I think of the 2 games, if I had to shortlist any, I would sort of say are up there. Call of Duty 4, reason being, well, it completely revolutionised the way that FPSs were, I guess, this console generation as a result. And yeah, I just got a lot of very fond memories of playing and enjoying playing Call of Duty. They've gone off on their little series and franchise now, and I think I've got a question in a bit anyway about that. And yeah, I really did enjoy playing Call of Duty 4, and unfortunately, due to the fact the game's been hacked quite a bit and whatnot these days, I haven't been back to play it. I really did enjoy it. It was really nicely balanced. There's only 2 weapons which were questionable, but they were counterable at least. All in all, I thought it was a really, really cool first-person shooter. Now, the other one was Battlefield 2 Modern Combat. Now, the reason I go back to this a lot is, well, probably for 2 reasons. First of all, rose-tinted glasses. It was my first proper dive into sort of multiplayer shooting games, and I have a fondness for it because of that. But also the fact that there was just something about it, the way the game played out, which was really cool, which you don't see today. This was a PS2 game which had a server browser, persistence, a really interesting level up system where it wasn't just based on XP, you had to be consistently good to advance. There's lots of cool little stuff which I think just made it, stand out from the crowd. I mean, it's still going even today. I think the Xbox 360 version had its servers shut down, but that's the way it goes. Not many people were playing it. But I know that the PS2 ones, at least a few months ago, were still about. So yeah, and the fact that, for instance, all the maps were scenario based, and you kind of felt like you were playing in a story in multiplayer. You know what? I'm going to say it. Battlefield 2 Modern Combat. That, I think, is the best multiplayer ever, and not Battlefield 3. Don't get me wrong, Battlefield 3 has got a lot right. I think the DLC has contributed a lot to the experience. You know, for example, Capture the Flag is a real hoot. I really do enjoy playing Capture the Flag in Battlefield 3. But, you know, it's got its little issues, its little gripes, which I hope the next game can get themselves sorted out. And hopefully I'll be able to say that Battlefield 4 has got the best multiplayer of all time for shooters. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. Anyway, I digress. Arsenal, great question. Thank you very much for that. Now, next question comes from Sneaky Dragon 22, and their question is as follows. You said that you had a degree for programming, and that they would love to go into sort of programming, game design, etc. when they finish school in a couple of years. But they want to know what programming is actually like. What are the fundamentals? Well, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here. So the fundamentals of programming is the fundamentals of computation. And you might go, what the hell does that mean? Well, you're computating things as I speak. You're thinking about what I'm saying. You're converting that into, some sort of statement or sentence, and you'll be either agreeing or disagreeing or trying to understand what I'm trying to say. And what programming is merely writing down how you would do something. So the best example, and it's given a lot, is how would you go and make for instance, a bowl of cereal or breakfast. You know that there are a series of steps which you have to do, and you have to do certain things in a certain order and all this kind of thing. It's fundamentally building up an algorithm is what it's called. And all programming is implementations of algorithms. Now, actually learning how to program can be quite tricky. There are different languages. Each language has its own little quirks, its drawbacks, its pros, etc. And getting to know how things are built in terms of software is a pretty cool experience. For example, graphics, for example. I'm not a particular graphics expert, but I have done some 3D programming in the past using OpenGL. To draw this image right here, that series of images, right here. How would you go about implementing this? How would you solve the problem of let's draw this beautiful desert? It's kind of, how would I do that? Well, as it turns out, this is all basically mathematics, and pretty complicated mathematics is that. Vertexes, matrices, and all sorts of other stuff going on. I just really, like learning about how you do something, and programming allows you to do that, because it allows you to do things in different ways and all this kind of stuff. So if you find yourself looking at problems, for instance, and go, oh, well, I could fix this by doing this, and you enjoy sort of looking at how things are done and looking at how you could potentially improve them, say, you will love programming. Getting into it is a bore, I'll be honest. Learning the first language is always a pain, and if you were, say, you really were keen and you wanted to get a bit of a head start, I'd recommend learning Java. It's a good teaching language. A lot of places use Java in their products and stuff. Just as a language, and there are plenty of really good educational books on Java which introduces everything from, like, say, a beginner. The book I learned from was called Head First Java, and it's all basically done with pictures, which is really, really easy to understand, and yeah, that's how I learned. Once you learn one language, you get the kind of fundamentals of what it's all about. You can then learn others, and everything is basically fundamentally similar once you get to that stage. For instance, I'm speaking English. That is based, speaking English, I'm speaking it poorly at the minute. That's based on Latin, and from Latin you have loads of other different languages, French, German, whatever. Once you learn one, you kind of get the rough rules of the game, and you can go from there and learn more languages really easily as a result. So yeah, programming is really awesome. It becomes very powerful very quickly when you sort of contemplate that you could put something together which could think, do, and act more than you could, and faster. You can get into some real ethical issues and all sorts of crazy stuff. So programming is really, really awesome. I really do enjoy programming. It's what my job is, basically. And yeah, it's not easy to get into, but if you can, it's really rewarding. So hopefully, Sneaky Dragon, that answers the question without boring you too much. Yeah, so if you can, pick up a language now, start early, and yeah, experiment. Don't be scared to try things. Don't be scared to fail, and go from there. I guess. So thank you very much, Sneaky Dragon, for the great question. Hopefully that's been interesting for you guys to hear my thoughts on. Anyway, I digress. Next question comes from Austin Anderson, and they ask, what influenced me to start a YouTube channel, and am I enjoying it? Well, the long and short of it was, the reason I wanted to do YouTube videos was to share my knowledge, experiences, be it in game or whatever else, and you know, talk about games, because you know, when I first started doing this stuff, YouTube for gaming wasn't really particularly big. Well, I wasn't even on this channel. I had a channel previously, which, don't get me wrong, I basically was doing the same thing with, but you know, it was hard to keep up with you know, making videos and everything else. I'm really enjoying making my videos now because this great community, you guys, have come together and watch, you know, what I produce regularly. You seem to enjoy it, and more than that, I get to talk about stuff, be it gaming, whatever else these days, and you guys, you know, we can have a discussion with it. You know, gaming was relatively niche a few years ago, and now it's becoming more and more social, more and more sort of socially accepted almost, and you know, as a result, it's really cool to talk to more and more people about, you know, stuff that I do as a hobby, I guess, and yeah, that's what keeps me going. So when you guys sort of say, oh, I really enjoyed that video, or I really enjoyed this moment, whatever else, that means an awful lot, because it just means that whatever I'm doing is going well, and it just keeps me going for making more, I guess. So there you go, Austin. I hope that kind of answers your question for you. You know, the biggest piece of advice I can give to anyone who wants to get into sort of making YouTube videos is make what you want to make. You know, make the videos you want to make. You know, don't start making videos just to make videos so you can later make videos, because at that point you're just becoming a machine. Only make videos that you want to make and go from there. So Austin, there you go. Thank you very much for a great question. Next question comes from Gasman2418, and they ask, what changes am I the most / least looking forward to for the 2014 Formula 1 season? Well, it's pretty early to say. We've got some major rule changes coming in, which I guess really to sort of, if we'll keep things brief, which I'm both looking forward to and dreading. The great thing about the current Formula 1 as we have it is it's relatively speaking close, because the rules haven't really changed that much. That has, however, meant that you tend to see the same cars and whatnot in the hunt all the time for, you know, race wins. You know, we've got, for example, Sebastian Vettel going after his 4th World Drivers' Championship on the trot. With rule changes, though, you don't really know where anyone is, and as a result, everything gets shaken up. So I'm looking forward to the rule changes because I want to see everything a little bit different. But likewise, I'm not looking forward to the rule changes because it might mean that, you know, as a result, you know, you might get into a different type of same, I guess. So I like the fact that things are going to change. I'm also a little concerned that things are going to change. Wow, that is literally the definition of hypocritical. You know, engine changes, for example, is a major thing. They're going from V8s to V6s with turbochargers. Honda is rumoured to be coming back. All sorts of really big changes are coming up. The cars are going to be different, etc. There's too much to cover, really, but what I hope is that it will shake things up a bit, so it's not the repetitive kind of nature it is at the moment, but likewise, you know, I want to keep it close and everything else, and hopefully you might see a few cars come forward in the field. Likewise, a few cars may go backward. We'll have to wait and see. So yeah, unpredictability, case in point, and I'm a hypocrite. Mr. Brian, thank you very much for your question. Sorry if I've confused you a bit there. Anyway, next questions come from the Lightning Cruiser, and they have 3 questions for me this week. They ask, first of all, what's my favourite Formula 1 track? Spa. I'll keep that short and sweet. Which race would I like to see live, sort of physically, at the track? I have a bucket list of races I want to go and see. For example, I want to go and watch the Canadian Grand Prix live, given that I'm half Canadian. Likewise, I want to watch the British Grand Prix, because I am British, obviously, or half British, whatever. But also tracks like Monza, Spa, you know, there are quite a few, you know, the classic tracks, the legendary tracks, whatever. If I had to say a particular one, I'd have to say Canada, purely because, well, you know, a little bit of patriotism perhaps, but also it's a great little circuit, and, you know, that 2011 race with Jenson Button, all I'm saying. I remember slamming my hand so hard down into the desk that day. Anyway, never mind, I'll digress. Canada for me there. And their final question is, what do I think about all the new / planned tracks, for example, New Jersey or Moscow? Well, I like new tracks. You know, it's... you know, it brings variety in. I hope that there'll be good let's say, for racing. You know, plenty of overtaking, not this, you know, tracks just being created, not born stuff. I've talked about this in the past as well. I'm hoping that the new tracks will give us decent racing, for instance, but also, you know, in the case of, say, New Jersey, it's about time. You know, Formula One has always needed a race in New York. They've been wanting one for a very long time, and now they've got it. You know, New York is a big draw, and having a race there will obviously make publicity huge for Formula One in the United States, which it kind of is after Austin. Actually, they did a good job there, but you know, more so make Formula One more mainstream in the US. But also, you know, New York is New York. It's an amazing place to have a race. It's like Monte Carlo, say, you know, a lot of prestige, a lot of class, etc. with that. And you know, Moscow, for instance, you know, Russia is getting, you know, a bigger country. You know, you've got new places as well, you know, for, say, India a few years back. You know, these guys are going to be big players in the world scene in the next, you know, 20, 30 years. So I think it's only fair that, you know, they get new tracks, and, well, as long as they make for good racing, as I've already talked about, I really don't mind them being there. As long as we keep the traditional, you know, and the properly, excuse this, track-proven races, I have no problem with new tracks at all. So, Lightning Cruiser, thank you very much for those 3 great questions. Next question comes from Psycho Fish, and they ask, why bitches be crazy, and what is my experience with bitches? Well, my experience, I'll put it like this. Saying that kind of stuff won't get you far, my friend. Yeah, the female form, the fairer sex, whatever, yeah, they're a bit of an illusion. Well, not an illusion. They're a bit of a hard thing to read, I guess. My experience has been mostly good, although I must admit, you know, in terms of, say, if you will, a girlfriend kind of perspective, I've always kind of, if you will, screwed myself over by friend-zoning everyone at once. That's, yeah, not so good. But my experience has been, you know, good, I guess, without sort of saying any more than that. You know, if you have a friend who you're really, you know, close to, you know, how do I phrase this? You know, you'll both know when it's time, when it's right, and you know, when it comes together, it's bloody awesome. Is all I'll say. You know, the Greeks have 7 different forms of love, and you kind of understand that when that happens, I guess. So why are they crazy? I don't really know. If I did, I could probably write a book and get millions and millions and millions of pounds, because finally it'd been understood. And my experience has been good. You know, just treat people as you treat yourself, and you will have no problems, I guess, is what to say there. Anyway, thank you very much, Psychofish, for the interesting question there. Next question comes from Dr. BCDPS3, and they ask, what inspired me to make the Journey videos I did a little while ago? Well, in short, it was a pretty unique moment in my life, one which I can't really go into much detail about. A lot of pressure suddenly came on my shoulders, so much so that I started to contemplate why I'd gotten to that point, and it was that moment of reflection that made me realise what I've been doing right and what I've been doing wrong, and more so what I'd been doing, I guess. So the journey isn't over. I could quite easily go on for another 2 or 3 videos perhaps, talking about more stuff, but as it happened, that video, or videos I should say, you know, that was just my thoughts at the time, you know, my recollection of things I'd done well, done badly, and how I got to that point. So yeah, the journey is just how I approached a situation in real life, realised what I did well, did badly, and how I resolved it. It's very, very special when you are in a bad place and all of a sudden you're able to work through the problem, get it sorted out, and then you realise how much of yourself you gave to it. Then you realise how much you can then give to other things and how much you are capable of, is what I'll say. So yeah, the journey, that was a pretty unique moment in my personal life, as it were. They also have a few more questions here I've just seen. There we go. They also ask, if I've got the chance, would I like to work at DICE? Absolutely. I'd love to work on Battlefield games. That would be awesome. And actually, and are my videos monetized? Yes, they are. That is part of the deal with being with Machinima. The videos need to be monetized. And what would the money be spent on? Well, first of all, just to recuperate some of the investment I've made personally into all this stuff, you know, hardware, software, all this kind of stuff. After that, I'd be quite happy to donate a good chunk of it to charity. I'll be totally honest. There's a really, really awesome event which happens sort of towards the end of the year called Extra Life. I've been following it the last couple of years. I'd love to do a 24-hour live stream where all the proceeds go to charity. I think that'd be bloody awesome. Yeah, you heard that here first. There we go. Anyway, Dr. BCDPS3, thank you for those great questions there. Yeah. Don't really know what to say after that. Thank you very much for them. Next question comes from Trey Kruber, and they ask, what do I use to make or edit my videos, and how tall am I? Well, I am 6'2", and I use Final Cut Pro 10. People call it in for stick because, oh, it's not as good as the old versions. Well, I personally quite like it, so ta-ra. Oh, there we go, I guess. Trey, there you go. Quick answers for some great questions there. Next question comes from Orange Ice 8, and they ask, where would my ideal vacation or trip be? Well, I'm kind of boring like this, I guess. I quite like the idea of just being in, say, at home and just not doing anything, and yeah, I've got some time off next week, for instance, where I will just be spending the chunk of it in my flat, just doing nothing. This is perfection to me, as a teammate decides to try and go on a little rocket program of his own that didn't quite go to plan. Yeah, I do quite enjoy just being on my own, just doing nothing. So you kind of, again, you realise what you have and haven't been doing, and as a result, I'm not doing stuff for a bit, I guess. Kind of dull, I know. I know, it's kind of dull. No, kind of dull, I know. But don't get me wrong, I do like travelling to new places, being a tourist, if you will. But yeah, just doing my normal thing, I guess. I don't know. This is a really, really weird tangenting kind of question, but never mind. I digress. Thank you very much, Orange Ice, for the great question there. Next question comes from Lancer Jane. Here we go. This was a Call of Duty question I saw before. Do I think that games should aim for highly polished, bug-free experiences? For example, overall profit, lowering their overall profit, or aim for sacrifice innovation? I personally am all about the innovation. I really think that if you can innovate, do something new, novel, never seen before, you should do it. I think that's why Call of Duty 4, as I just said, was so popular and, well, made the Call of Duty series what it is today. The fact that they then went on to produce so many iterations so quickly has shown that it makes money, for sure. We know that already. This franchise, whatever, it works. But it is also kind of a pity because, they'd made that massive step with Call of Duty 4 and they could have done it again. If more polish, you can't go wrong. So I question time like that. I still have more questions to get through, but I've run out of gameplay bored you for the last 40 minutes. Guys, as always, thank you for your amazing questions. I hope you enjoyed the two gameplays there of Capture the Flag. Some nice moments in both. I did enjoy playing in those games. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer for next time, all you have to do is pop it down in the comment section below and I will get to answering it next time. If you could leave a like, dislike, whatever you believe this video deserves, that would be fantastic. And if you're new to my videos and you want to see some more from myself, you can always subscribe. So guys, I've been Chuggy. Thank you so very much for watching. I'll see you next time out on the battlefield.